It's great to have you here at BTCON, the first Bitcoin conference in Korea. And then you're known for your many groundbreaking achievements, being the first founder of crypto derivative exchange founder and the first. Well, I'm not sure if you like these terms or not, but you are first African American crypto billionaire, and now you're part of the first family office that are supporting Bitcoin ecosystem. And how do you feel like, to begin with, how do you feel about like being a pioneer, and what journey led you to support Bitcoin ecosystem?
Well, I got into crypto through Bitcoin. So I remember in 2013 when I read the white paper, and it really resonated with me because I've been a gold bug for a very long time. So the philosophy behind what Satoshi and those early pioneers were creating really spoke to me. And as a trader, I love markets. And when I sort of like went online and found all these different ways to go long, go short, trade different things in crypto, I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. And it really is for someone
Which
who's not very.
year was that?
2013 is when I started trading. So I sent my first $1,000 to MT Gox, and then I sold some futures contracts on some random exchange in the Caribbean, and that was like my entry into crypto. And I haven't looked back, and the people are super amazing too. It's the smartest people in the world I've met who are working on this way to separate money from the state, and I think it's a great mission.
Right. As we discussed in the waiting room, I mean, I miss those times. The early days. People were amazing there. I mean, I'm sure that the people now are more like matured, and then we have a lot of institutions, investors coming into this market as well. So today I actually want to talk about two main topics. The first one is about Bitcoin investment outlook, and then your insight into the growth of Bitcoin ecosystem. So let's tackle the first one first. So you've been actually, I have watched many of your interviews and their podcast, and that you're not shy about telling people about Bitcoin investment outlook and the price, sometimes price prediction as well, right? And I'm sure our audience might be also curious about the current state of Bitcoin. Could you share your thought on this?
I mean, I think there's been a lot of complaints from the Bitcoin people about, oh, what does Bitcoin do, right? It doesn't do anything, it doesn't have a yield, and then you see it Ethereum and Solana and all these other protocols that have like created these ecosystems of people building financial products on top. And we in Bitcoin, not that I'm a maxi or anything, are like, wow, that'd be nice if we could, have a scripting language on top of Bitcoin and all these sort of things. I really appreciate that the core devs and the security-minded folks in Bitcoin are very reticent to expand the surface area of risk because, again, we don't want to compromise the hardest money ever created by putting on financial products that could sort of introduce security risk. And so I think we've taken it very slow in terms of what has been built on top of Bitcoin. But we've invested in Mezzo, we're looking at some other protocols, and we think it's time that we sort of bring some more functionality to Bitcoin. Obviously, it's the biggest ecosystem. What was it, 1 point something trillion of value is in Bitcoin. All it does is sit in your wallet. There obviously is appetite to earn yield, to borrow and lend, to leverage trade, to do all the things that we can do on all the other decentralized computers like Ethereum, Solana, Aptos, those sorts of things. So I think that's coming. Obviously, there's lots of projects that are supporters of this conference that are trying to achieve that vision. And I think we're going to see some really interesting products focused on Bitcoin usability in a financial sense in the next 6 to 12 months.
Next 12 months. So do you think that what will happen in the next 12 months? What do you think that will happen?
You'll probably be able to use your Bitcoin, maybe over collateralized lending. You'll be able to stake your Bitcoin. Some layer 2 is going to save your state and allow you to trade on a DEX. 100x leverage trading using Bitcoin as collateral. So all the primitives that we've sort of built on, starting in Ethereum and some of the other layer 1 blockchains, we're going to do the same thing in Bitcoin, but the best thing about Bitcoin is, number one, it's more secure than all of those protocols, and number two, we have the most interest in terms of market cap of which to leverage to do these sorts of things. So if you think about, TVL, total value locked, that's the metric that we look at for DeFi in sort of the other space. We're going to have the biggest pool, TAM for TVL right in Bitcoin, and we have a whole ecosystem that has been chomping at the bit since 2020 when DeFi really came into its own to express themselves in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think these protocols are going to do very, very well, and the tokens associated with them are going to pump.
Right, we're gonna pump. Yeah, Bitcoin blockchain is the most secured blockchain in the world, and that it has the majority of market cap. So we can expect a lot of potential from those infrastructure coming out of Bitcoin ecosystem. Like you said, BTCFi, some DeFi products as well, right? And I'm also curious because I've been also in this industry for 10 years, right? But then people always say this time might be different or this time is different, right? But I really believe that this time might be, right? Because we are seeing a lot of institutionals, investors, getting involved in Bitcoin and crypto market. And how do you see about this? Like, what impact does it make for Bitcoin's volatility or stabilities?
Well, I think we're witnessing the death of the 60-40 portfolio. Anyone who's investing in sovereign bonds is an idiot. They're the worst. They're down 50% in total return over the past 3 years. Worst return in some bond markets since the early 19th century. Yet institutional investors, because a lot of them are Muppets, are still investing in government bonds. But slowly but surely, they're getting the message that these are bad investments. And when you have a Bitcoin ETF listed in the US and other places around the world who are copying that, now you have an easy way where you don't have to actually custody Bitcoin. You can just get its price and volatility characteristics, import that into your portfolio, and not get fucked by governments. And so I think that trend is going to continue. It's just starting right now. It'll take a while, but as the marketing machine ramps up, the best financial marketer in the world, Larry Fink, has a Bitcoin product. It's the best performing product in the history of BlackRock in terms of AUM growth in the shortest amount of time. And so you're going to imagine that he's going to push that as far as he can and change sort of the mindset of institutional investors around the world that, when the markets are shitting the bed, you don't go rush into the 10-year treasury or your domestic government bond. You come rush into this ETF, and thanks for very much, I'll charge you 5 basis points for the privilege. So I think that's what's changing. And as sort of people start updating their financial models and Sharpe ratios and all that kind of stuff, they're going to see that crypto is a suitable product for them, and they can buy it from an institution that they're comfortable with.
I see. And what it mean to retail investors, like with the institutional investors getting more involved in crypto market? What do you think that will impact to retail investors that we know of today? Like, investors from DeFi to trading on CEX, etc.
Just more buying pressure, right? Retail investors just want their stuff to go up. So if you have a price insensitive buyer and a vehicle that's long only and there's no leverage or anything, so it's great, right? Price of stuff goes up. As a retail investor, you feel rich. Then you start buying the oil airdrop that I'm selling, or NFTs, or all the other fun stuff.
That was a curveball.
Yeah. All the other stuff in the ecosystem that's based on how much wealth you have in crypto. You have sort of the institutional investors buying the simple stuff, the Bitcoin, the ETH, maybe Solana, whatever other products come out there. And so then you're going to move out on the risk curve in terms of what you're comfortable buying as a retail crypto investor. So it's great.
Yes, that is great. And what these days, it's actually quite hard to navigate, the crypto market. We have so much uncertainty going on with the U.S. interest rate cut and then the election as well. And what are the key factors, if you could share one or two key factors that retail investors should really keep an eye on?
I think that people sort of overcomplicate things because they use leverage and they have a short time horizon. But if you think about what has happened since 2008 till today, why has Bitcoin been the best performing asset in human history? Because the ruling empire defaulted on their debts, essentially. They had a financial crisis, and instead of allowing the bad actors to lose money, they socialized the losses against the whole world. And they said, we're going to print a fuck ton of money. And Bitcoin was thankfully created by Satoshi. And it's taken a lot of that money and gone up, obscene amounts in terms of percentage terms. So that trend is continuing, right? We have elections around the world. What do politicians do? They come out to the people and they say, I'm going to give you free stuff that you don't have to pay for. Please vote for me. And that's what Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are doing to their respective supporters. It doesn't really matter who wins the US election or who wins any election, for that matter, around the world, because the theme is, I'm going to do something for you and you don't have to pay for it, which is not true. You always pay for it.
That sounds like printing more money to me.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to print more money. I mean, it might not come in, immediately. Everyone thinks the Fed rate cuts can be positive. Obviously, I think Nikkei's down 4% already this morning. So everybody's getting fucked right now in the traditional markets because the rate cuts aren't going to plan. But at the end of the day, what's the response? Their response is always, we're going to print more money, regardless of what political system you have, regardless of what country you're in. And so as long as retail investors keep that in mind, that the goal is always to print money, then just hold the Bitcoin, hold your ETH, hold your coin actual users and real revenue, and you're going to do fine over time. But if you're trying to trade the 5-minute candle and you want to know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes, then flip a coin and I hope you don't get liquidated.
Don't get liquidated. Let's move on to our next topic, which is about Bitcoin ecosystem. We have seen a lot of growing interest in ordinals, runes, those kind of like Bitcoin native assets, as well as like new infrastructure being built, like Bitcoin layer 2s, BTC-Fi. And you shared a little bit about your view and insight on Bitcoin ecosystem earlier, but can you elaborate more? And then what's your biggest bet on this new Bitcoin ecosystem?
So I think the biggest thing that we can do as Bitcoiners is bring culture on chain. So human culture, which is everything you do after you get outside of work, whether it's go to the movies, go to a restaurant, go to a play, go to a nightclub, whatever, it's all culture. And so that's trillions of dollars worth of value of what it means to be a human being. And so if we can allow that to people to express themselves in a digitally native format that's scarce on the most secure network in the world, that is Bitcoin, then the amount of value that's going to be created on chain is going to surpass anyone's wildest imaginations. And we have a very good way of onboarding lots of people, because if you think about it, go to a Louis Vuitton store anywhere around the world and there's people lining outside the door to buy cow ass that has a LV leather on it, right? It doesn't make any sense, but it speaks to people's culture and they like it. So what would people do if they had a cultural artifact that was on chain that they just had to have? Right? They'll do anything, and they'll download any wallet, they'll learn anything they have to do so that they can properly express themselves against other humans. And so we see this in the fashion industry. Let's do that on crypto as well. And so that's why we're super bullish on ordinals and runes and all these different things where we can bring, for the first time, a true digitally artifact that's scarce on the hardest network in the world. And I think that's going to be a massive game changer in terms of onboarding people, because people understand art. They don't understand, a borrowing and lending curve or some of the DeFi things that it's very specific, but everybody understands, oh, I like that artist, I like that celebrity, there's something that I can buy that lets me communicate better with them or show that my affiliation to some tribe, I can do that, and I'm willing to invest the time to learn how to do that. So we're very positive on sort of the ordinal space in crypto in general.
Yeah, so you're seeing that the mass adoption of blockchain will come from the culture side.
I believe so.
Yes. And then just to make our audience understand a little bit more about ordinals, what ordinals is, and then what are the things that they should take a look at. Could you give us
so I think
some
obviously
examples?
the Korean market's very familiar with NFTs. I think it's the very big buyers of those. But if you think about it, an NFT and Ethereum, apart from a few projects, most of the time it's a fungible token that's scarce, cryptographically scarce on Ethereum, that points to a off-chain database that's maintained by some centralized party. So if that party goes down or moves your content or whatever, you essentially have no value. So it's not really a true digitally native artifact. Whereas an ordinal, everything that thing exists on the Bitcoin blockchain. So if the Bitcoin blockchain goes away, then obviously your asset goes away. But anything that happens outside the Bitcoin blockchain is irrelevant to your asset. And so that's why you've seen things like recursive code that you could execute on-chain in Bitcoin with no sort of ties to any third-party service. So we call it an artifact, a digitally scarce artifact, because it exists purely on-chain, and I think that speaks to the ethos of Bitcoin, which is we don't want to refer to anything other than the network itself and things that can be done on the network itself. So that's what's different about ordinals. That's why I think it speaks to Bitcoiners specifically. To understand that these things are scarce, then they're going to like them more than buying some pixelated piece of shit on Ethereum.
Okay, I will have to ask you the last very short question. You can give me a very short answer as well. Do you hold any collection?
Of
Ordinals?
Of ordinals.
Yes.
So I have wizards. I have an honorary Bitcoin wizard, and obviously I'm doing a large drop called Airheads, which is essentially a riff on inflation. The more assets that you bring to the chain, the fatter your Airhead gets. And so, yeah, we're working with the Oil Wallet, which is a sponsor of this conference. They've made a very beautiful UI UX for trading and storing ordinals, BRC20s, and runes.
Okay, I have heard about Airhead. It's getting a lot of popularity these days. Yes. Well, Arthur, thank you so much for your time. We will have to let you go now. And I hope to, also have you next year, BTCON.
Awesome.
Well.
Thank you so
promise?
much. Yes.